take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
CannabisRadio.com presents The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, this is great, man.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Thursday, September 22nd, 2016, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us today. I am so excited about today's show. I can hardly keep sitting still. Oh, I was up late last night as I got word from my friends out in Boston about a event being held at the Edward M. Kennedy Center in Boston and on TV with WGBH, the public broadcaster there in Boston. Our friend Madeline Martinez appeared on the panel, and she's been telling me about this appearance for months, but I had no idea that Kevin Sabet, the opponent of marijuana legalization, the Joker to buy Batman, would be there as well. Of course, I should have just assumed that, because wherever there is legalization, Sabet will be there to propagandize against it. Well, the folks in Boston let me know that Sabet held forth a couple of bags of candy and claimed one of them was medicated, one of them wasn't, and the audience, he dared them to tell the difference. He twice stated that one of them was medicated and one of them was not. And we'll tell you what has unfolded since that occurred. It's been a whirlwind story. I was up all late last night getting it all put together on weednews.co if you want some of the details. The full video is there as well. I'll be bringing you the audio clips coming up here in the Radical Rant at the end of this first hour, where we tell you how Kevin Sabet's marijuana gummy bear propaganda stunt backfired stupendously. Also on today's show, it's Thursday, and that means we speak with a retired law enforcement professional from Cops Say Legalize Drugs. That's Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, our Cops Say Legalize Drugs segment. And today we're joined by a local retired deputy sheriff, Paul Steigletter, who was a former Clackamas County Sheriff. That's just south of me here in Portland. So we'll talk to him about Oregon's marijuana legalization and what he sees is happening in law enforcement in reaction to that. So that's coming up at 5:30. Also on the show today in drug war data mining, more polls coming out, a couple of good polls that bode well for California's Proposition 64 and Nevada's Question 2, I think it is, Initiative 2, whatever they're calling it. We'll bring the details to you in drug war data mining. Before that, we've got our Behind the Headlines segment where we take a look here at the state of Oregon, where new regulations concerning cannabis testing are about to go into effect that could create a major pinch point in the industry and lead to a drastic raise in prices. We'll give you the details, and that comes up right after our Cannabis Radio News. And in the news today, we've got new economic forecasts on what the new legal states in this election could bring in marijuana revenue by 2020. We've also got a look at Michigan, where new medical marijuana laws have been signed by the governor. In Arkansas, one of the suits trying to defeat medical marijuana on the ballot there has been rejected. We'll give you the details. In Missouri, a rejection of medical marijuana on the ballot there comes with a little bit of a silver lining from the Secretary of State. In Washington, D.C., the mayor wants to increase medical marijuana limits. And in Phoenix, Arizona, a couple of cops under investigation for mistreating a teenage marijuana consumer. All that coming up in Hour 1, and then stay tuned for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio, where we've got a special exclusive guest joining us in the first segment, Dr. Keith Saunders from MassCan Normal. The hero of the Kevin Sabet gummy bear story will be joining us live to give us all the latest details. We'll also talk a little bit about Fox News noticing the Stoners Against Legalization in California and give you a preview of the International Cannabis Business Conference in Vancouver. Stay tuned.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Earn your PhD in THC monetization with CannabisRadio.com. Don't be late.
While the feds and state are doing their dance, you still need to transact business and manage your cash. Go professional and let your customers pay with PayQuick. They pay you and they earn rewards points. PayQuick connects to your bank account for free and secures all of your transactions. And with PayQuick, you can pay your producers and processors for free. Plus, it pays to have it because it makes depositing your cash safe and so easy. No cops, no crooks, just compliance and comfort, knowing you have your cannabis business in check with PayQuick. PayQuick, the safe and easy way to pay. PayQuick.com.
Tommy Chong Show on Cannabis Radio. You know, about this podcast, what I really want to do from now on is to solve world problems. I feel like my job is to calm everybody down and focus on how we can save this planet.
The Tommy Chong Podcast, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome to my world.
Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals, or at least they pay me to say that. A public service message from CannabisRadio.com and the Russ Belville Show.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
It's time for the Cannabis Radio News. Covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Cannabis Radio News is now available exclusively at CannabisRadio.com. Now your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is Cannabis Radio News.
This is your Cannabis Radio News for Thursday, September 22nd, 2016. New economic forecasts from marijuana industry analysts predict that success in 7 state ballot initiatives will create another $7.8 billion in revenue by 2020. The Denver Post reports that ArcView Group and New Frontier Data have released their mid-year update to their report, The State of Legal Marijuana Markets. California alone, according to the report, will account for $3.9 billion of that additional revenue. Nationwide, they predict all the legal and medical states will account for $20.6 billion by 2020. Previous estimates of $22.7 billion were revised downward as analysts gathered more accurate data, reflecting slow sales in Illinois and New York and new regulations affecting cannabis business profitability. Michigan's Governor Rick Snyder has signed a trio of bills designed to clarify and expand the state's medical marijuana program. The Detroit News reports that the new laws will explicitly allow for storefront medical marijuana dispensaries subject to local approval. New licenses and regulations governing the industry from grower to processor to tester to transporter are established in the bills, including a seed-to-sale tracking system. Marijuana-infused edibles are explicitly made legal, clearing up a legal gray area made murky by numerous court rulings. A new 3% dispensary tax and the state's 6% sales tax will apply to medical marijuana purchases. Analysts estimate those taxes combined may raise over $85 million annually. The Arkansas Supreme Court rejected a last-ditch effort by opponents of marijuana reform to sink a medical marijuana initiative in the state, but 2 other suits remain. Arkansans Against Legalized Marijuana, a coalition that includes the State Chamber of Commerce and the Arkansas Farm Bureau, asked the court to deny counting the votes for the measure because it was misleading to the voters. Justice Josephine Linker Hart, penning the court's rejection of the claim, said the measure gave voters, quote, a fair understanding of the issues presented, end quote. Arkansas has 2 measures for medical marijuana on the ballot, Issue 6 and Issue 7, but Issue 7 allows for home cannabis cultivation by patients while Issue 6 does not. Issue 7 was spared in yesterday's ruling, but both measures each still face a legal challenge. The same coalition rejected today on Issue 7 is making a similar claim against Issue 6, while a normal attorney is behind the remaining suit against Issue 7. Missouri Secretary of State Jason Kander issued the bad news that activists pushing a medical marijuana initiative fell just 23 signatures short of making the ballot. But within his declaration was a glimmer of hope for patients, as Kander became the top elected official in the Show Me state to endorse the legalization of cannabis for medical use. In a statement, Kander said that, quote, "The Missouri General Assembly should pass legislation to allow medical marijuana," end quote. Kander alludes to the New Approach Missouri activists who are determined to try again in 2018, then asks that if the legislature won't submit a medical marijuana bill, quote, "they should at least put the measure on the ballot themselves in 2018 to give Missouri voters the opportunity to decide on this issue," end quote. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser wants to double the amount of medical marijuana that qualified city residents can buy each month. Bowser announced Wednesday that she will propose allowing patients to buy 4 ounces of pot a month rather than 2 ounces. The regulatory change requires approval by the D.C. Council. Possession of up to 2 ounces of pot for recreational use is also legal in the city, and residents are permitted to grow up to 3 mature plants in their homes. 2 Phoenix police officers are under investigation for allegedly forcing a teenager to eat his marijuana or go to jail. The Arizona Republic reports that a 19-year-old man filed a complaint after numerous officers had pulled him over for a traffic stop. When marijuana was found by officers searching the vehicle, the man claims the police offered him the ultimatum, and he complied, eating his stash of marijuana and receiving only tickets for the traffic violations. Police Chief Joe Yonner in a statement said he was, quote, "appalled by the allegations, and if they are proven, he will, quote, take quick and appropriate action to ensure those involved are held accountable," end quote. This has been your Cannabis Radio News for Thursday, September 22nd, 2016. I'm Russ Belville.
Forwarding the cause of legalization and research of the growing cannabis industry, one podcast at a time. The Cannabis Radio Network. The cannabis industry is growing, business is booming, and as new opportunities arise in newly legalized states, each market is getting more competitive. Today, it takes more than just being a good grower. Do you have the resources to market and handle this ever-changing business landscape? Let Canna Management Corporation help you grow your canna business with our vast resources and experience to make your business a fully functional service company. Financial management, HR, sales, marketing, efficiency, and more. CMC has the experience and the expertise to improve your business and help you better meet the demands of your clients and customers. Call Canna Management Corporation and let our team get you ready to grow. 415-269-8015. That's 415-269-8015. Or visit canna-management.com.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Marijuana is not addictive, but listening to the Russ Belville Show is.
Marijuana legalization is a worldwide phenomenon. Get yourself positioned for the global cannabis marketplace by attending the International Cannabis Business Conference in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. You'll learn from established cannabis professionals, elected officials, and internationally recognized marijuana law reform activists. You'll also enjoy the ICBC's famous VIP party featuring ICBC special guest speaker and Canadian native Tommy Chong. The ICBC is happening in Vancouver on Thursday and Friday, October 13th and 14th at the Hyatt Regency. Log on to internationalcbc.com today to reserve your tickets. That's internationalcbc.com and bookmark our page for the next ICBCs taking place in Berlin, Germany and San Francisco, California. Don't miss the International Cannabis Business Conference internationalcbc.com.
The world of cannabis is evolving at a frenetic pace. The Russ Belville Show gets behind the headlines to take a deeper look at breaking news in our Cannabis Focus.
Today in the Cannabis Focus, we take a look right here at my home state of Oregon, where marijuana legalization is proceeding swimmingly. I was on the phone today with the pot beat reporter from the Oregonian, Noelle Crombie, and she is preparing a story on how this October 1st, just a few days away, we are celebrating our first anniversary here in Oregon of legal recreational marijuana sales. And I told Noelle my feelings on the issue, that I think everything has gone swimmingly. It's gone great. Oregon's done a fantastic job in getting sales happening quickly in this state, and the prices here in the state are fantastic. So I had nothing but great things to say about how the state of Oregon is running the marijuana legalization implementation. And then I remembered there's a big disaster waiting in the wings for us come this October here in Oregon. It's reported in the Potlander, the Willamette Week's cannabis-focused news section, wweek.com, and it tells us that Oregon cannabis is headed for a tough month because of an obscure agency and strict new rules. What's happening here is the Oregon Environmental Laboratory Accreditation Program, or known as ORLAP, is severely understaffed and underfunded. Back in August, the administrator of ORLAP sent a memo out saying they were on the precipice of collapse. And the problem here is that the Oregon Health Authority, which covers the regulations for cannabis products currently, because they're all medical cannabis products at this point. We don't have our grows recreational in the stores up yet. But anyway, Oregon Health Authority has decided that any cannabis products transferred to shops must be tested through approved labs verified by ORLAP. Problem is, there's only 2 labs that have been approved for the whole damn state. And we've got thousands of growers trying to get all their product through these 2 labs. Now, ORLAP is a small agency, and they've got other things to do besides dealing with cannabis when it comes to testing and certifying accuracy of testing. We've had some problems with air pollution they've had to deal with recently. We've had a lead in our schools, drinking water issue that has happened over the past couple of months that's gotten a lot of attention. So when OHA said on October 1st, that's your deadline, labs have to be certified, they didn't bother to give ORLAP any more resources. The administrator requested 3 full-time employees just to handle the cannabis accreditation, and they gave him nobody. So all these labs have to be audited. They have to have extra inspections. They have to make improvements to meet the ORLAP requirements. And OHA has made more stringent requirements from the labs. There's more sampling that has to be done. Each strain has to have a different test. They have to have a new test for every batch of 10 pounds. Every 10 pounds, you got to do a test. So it's already, we've already got somewhat of a bottleneck with just 2 accredited labs. Now we're going to add to that bottleneck by slowing down the process overall by creating more requirements. And we've got more and more growers coming online and more recreational consumers. And we are getting to what we call Croptober here in the West Coast. All of the sun-grown cannabis now is getting harvested between now and the middle of October. And this is going to be a big glut that's going to be hitting the market anyway. And now we've got this pinch point at the testing labs. So all is rosy here in Oregon for now. But once we hit October, we might start to see some of the product coming off of the shelves and less selection and price increases because of this problem. Oregon Come on, let's get some more people at the Orlap so we can get our cannabis tested.
Get a life, will you, people? I mean, for crying out loud, it's just a TV show.
That sound means that it's 4:20 in the Mountain Time Zone. Happy 4:20 to our friends in, I don't know, how about Saskatchewan? Is that Mountain Time Zone? I'm reaching here when I get to the Canadian provinces, aren't I? Well, we got to take a safety meeting, make sure that we're all safe. You know what I mean. We'll be back with some drug war data mining polls from California and Nevada.
Next to THC and CBD, you can now add CBR to your cannabis vernacular. CBR as in cannabisradio.com.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be, the Vuber way.
I'm Radical Russ from the Russ Belville Show. Good day, everybody. Radical Russ here in Aspen, Colorado, at the Alaska Northwest Cannabis Classic, at the 26th Annual Boston Freedom Rally, at the High Times Cannabis Cup, Northern California, day one of CannaCon in Seattle, Washington. It's the Russ Belville Show, the NPR of POT, weekdays live at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, exclusively on CannabisRadio.com.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details.
Promoting the end of adult cannabis prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It's even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more on this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
Today in the Drug War Data Mines, we take a look forward to Marijuana Election Night 2016. We'll be bringing you live coverage here on CannabisRadio.com starting at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going for 6 hours as the polls close all across the time zones of the continental U.S. And as we look forward, we are taking a look at the polls, the public opinion polls, the latest ones that have come out on the various marijuana legalization measures out there. And we've got the Public Policy Institute of California, which has come out with its latest survey. Lots of questions on this one. They're asking about the presidential race, numerous California propositions. And, of course, the Proposition 64 is on the ballot for the legalization of marijuana. And this latest poll from PPIC asks a few questions, and the first one that they get to is whether or not people support the marijuana legalization amendment, Prop 64, that is on the ballot. And the good news here is that we've got a full 60% of California voters that were surveyed in this poll in support of Prop 64. Some fantastic news there. And as we look deeper into the numbers, we can give you some more details here. 60% of likely voters, 65% of Democrats, 64% of independents supporting Prop 64. Republicans, 52% are opposed, with 46% supporting. And this is great news. We've seen similar polls coming out recently, one that showed 58% support for Prop 64. It's increasingly looking like that poll that Kevin Sabet and the Stoners Against Legalization crowed about the one showing just 52% in California seems to be an outlier as more and more information, more and more polls are coming out here regarding the marijuana legalization question. Looking at some of the crosstabs, they also asked some more generic questions. They asked, in general, do you think that marijuana legalization, there should be marijuana legalization in California? And on that account, the people were 56% for legality, 42% not legal. But when you went to likely voters, that's where we get the 61 support, 37 oppose. Looking at the regions of California, Prop 64 is supported by majorities in the Central Valley, San Francisco Bay Area, and surprisingly, Orange County and San Diego at 53%. However, Los Angeles and the Inland Empire are sitting at just 50% support, with Inland Empire clocking in at 49% opposition. Men support legalization at almost a 2-to-1 margin, 63% among males, only 49%, evenly divided among females, 49 to 49, opposition and support for Prop 64 in California. Again, that gender gap that we always see between men and women rearing its ugly head. Among ethnic groups and races, African Americans, 80% support in California, 56% among Asians, but Latinos oppose it with 59%. Whites are at 66% support. Age groups, as you'd expect, everybody below the age of 55 supports it. Above age 55, support is split. And these numbers, like I said, bode well for the marijuana legalization initiative happening in the state of California. They also asked if people had ever actually tried marijuana in the past year or throughout their lifetime. 54% of the adults said they had not tried marijuana, 49% of the likely voters. So we have a situation where 51% of likely voters in California have tried marijuana in their lifetime. Now, that's not the only poll that we've gotten out. Of course, we're all excited about California being the big prize on the ballot, but nearby in Nevada, a new poll out of KTNV television in Las Vegas, combined with Rasmussen Reports, finds a majority supporting marijuana legalization. Question 2, as it is known on the ballot in Nevada, gains a 53% to 39% margin of support. So looking good in Nevada with opposition not even topping 40% in this poll. This is a modest increase since the last poll back in July, which had Nevada at 50 to 41. So opposition has declined 2 points. Support has increased 3 points. And according to 538, the political website, Rasmussen pollsters tend to tilt Republican. So those numbers could even be a little bit low on the support. The question was specifically, do they favor or oppose the legalization of marijuana for recreational use in Nevada if it is regulated and taxed like alcohol and cigarettes? Again, the same demographics are at play. Younger people, Democrats more likely to support, older people over 65, and Republicans more likely to oppose. The opponents are being outspent in this election in Nevada, and the spokesperson for the Yes on Question 2 says the results they've gotten in this poll are pretty consistent with other polls, internal and external, that they've seen throughout the state. There's a new group in Nevada, Protecting Nevada's Children. A spokesperson for the group, Pat Hickey, who's on the Nevada State Board of Education, says that the poll is flawed and the measure will be defeated. He says, our opponents have spent nearly $1 million and can barely achieve a majority. Protecting Nevada's Children has been operational for less than a week, and we've gotten tremendous support. Cops Say Legalized Drugs segment is up next with a former Clackamas County Sheriff from right here in Oregon, Paul Steiglater, joining us. Stay tuned. We're back in just a couple of minutes.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Keep your cannabis cravings under control. Feed your mind with CannabisRadio.com.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Hi, I'm Montel Williams. Most of you know me as a talk show host, but I'm also an author, actor, single father of 4, avid snowboarder, and I'm also a medical marijuana patient. Living with multiple sclerosis, I'm in pain every day. Medical marijuana is my last resort, and it helps me when all other drugs have failed. If you'd like more information about medical marijuana, you can contact the Marijuana Policy Project at mpp.org or call 1-877-JOIN-MPP.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Each year on my birthday, every American gets a cupcake.
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
Coming soon to a city near you, Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. Get all your cannabis accounting, legal, and compliance questions answered by their knowledgeable panel of industry experts who want to help your cannabis business boom. Whether you're a grower, dispensary operator, or a newcomer to the field, your cannabis business needs Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. For information on upcoming events, visit CannabisFinanceBootCamp.com.
One of the most disturbing elements of the Prohibition War is how it's made police the enemy of otherwise law-abiding cannabis consumers. Fortunately, one group of police officers knows the futility of prohibition and reaches out to educate the community and current law enforcement. Today, the Russ Belville Show visits with another speaker from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition with one clear message: cops say legalize drugs.
Welcome back, everyone. 32 after the hour, and joining us today for our Cops Say Legalized Drugs segment, sponsored by Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, we've got retired Deputy Sheriff from nearby Clackamas County, Oregon. It's Paul Steigleiter joining us. And Paul, I apologize if I butchered your name, but welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Russ. It's good to be on.
How exactly do I pronounce your name?
Steigleiter.
Steigleiter.
Really
okay, just like it's spelled, of course. Thanks for joining us here on the show. And could you tell our listeners real quick just a brief background in law enforcement, your career, where you started, and how long you served?
Over 30 years as a law enforcement officer. I started with Clackamas County, worked my way up from a cadet to eventually the rank of lieutenant. Retired in August of 2012, and like I said, I had a over 30-year career. Spent a lot of time sometimes as a DARE instructor, which is a drug abuse resistance education officer, and then as well as a DRE, which is a drug recognition expert. So I was working hands-on with a lot of folks that were in crisis from use of controlled substances.
This gives us a lot to talk about. With an over 30-year career, that puts you getting involved right smack dab in the middle of the Reagan administration and the height of the Just Say No era. And you mentioned your experience as a DARE instructor. And looking back at that now, how do you feel about your work that you did as a cop going into schools and trying to teach kids and show kids drugs?
I think that it was a good program, and what it was trying to do was it was trying to use peer pressure for kids to stay away from drugs. And there has been some competing programs out there. I know for a fact that I made a difference in some kids' lives because they contacted me later and said, hey, thank you for the information you gave me. It allowed me to stay drug-free, and now I've got X career. So I know I made a difference. Programs like that are targeted at children or minors so that they can make an informed decision as to whether or not they want to stay away from the use of drugs.
Well, over the years, there's been numerous studies on DARE and its effectiveness, with many of them showing it to be either no different than not having DARE, or even in some cases detrimental, where the kids who had no idea about drugs are suddenly their curiosity is stoked by the cop who shows up with the first batch of, hey, look at all these illegal drugs. Have you followed any of that research? Do you still stand by DARE? Is it something you think we need to continue having cops educating kids about drugs rather than educators or health professionals?
Well, I think that there were a couple of benefits of the DARE program, and you've got science on both sides of the issue. You're saying it works or it doesn't work, and there were some competing programs, and unfortunately, one was trying to discredit the other. And I'm just talking from my own experience.
Sure.
I know that I had success in that program. And we didn't really bring a bunch of drugs into the class and show the kids. What we did is we talked about the effects of the drugs. And we didn't do it like Scared Straight, and we didn't do it like Reefer Madness. We just wanted to educate the kids of the potentials of the negative impact on a child and the negative impact on a developing human being. And from that standpoint, I don't think we could have done anything wrong. And I personally think that we made a difference. There are obviously some folks out there that don't think that we did. Some of the, I think that anytime we could get into a classroom and put a police officer into a positive role and the interaction within the community, that was a great thing. And so you say that it was, when I started, it was right smack dab in the middle of Reagan's and the ramping up on the war on drugs. That is true. But at that time, we were still in the schools, and we were still a positive role model for the kids. We weren't this up-armored RoboCop image that, unfortunately, we are faced with today. And in my own humble opinion, I think that a lot of the divide between the police and our community that we serve is an outgrowth and a direct result of that ramping up of the war on drugs that started with President Nixon, but then obviously got accelerated when President Reagan threw a whole bunch of money and ideas, flawed ideas, at the issue of the dependence on drugs within the end user. So there was this perception that there's this huge drug problem, and we gotta solve it by this war on drugs, and that's not the way to solve this problem.
We're speaking with retired Deputy Sheriff Paul Steigletter from Clackamas County, Oregon, a 30-year veteran of law enforcement. And it's fascinating to me. You had this experience as a DARE cop, and now 30 years later, you're with law enforcement against prohibition, advocating for legalization of not just marijuana like we have here in Oregon, but of all drugs at some level. And take us through that journey. Were there a series of epiphanies that happened? Was it just the grinding experience of the drug war finally got you down, or what made you change?
Well, a little of both of those, Russ. So here in Oregon, we decriminalized small amounts, less than an ounce of marijuana. We were one of the first states to do that. And so kind of being a libertarian at heart, but following the laws that are in existence, my personal beliefs throughout my life have been what somebody does in the privacy of their own home, as long as you're a consenting adult and you're not hurting anybody else, Godspeed. So over the years, I worked with the DARE program and tried to make an impact there. My own personal experience was I was exposed to substances as a young child, and I think that I had to deal with those issues throughout my life. Well, if I could prevent somebody else from having to walk in my shoes, I was think I was doing the right thing. So got these programs out there that I started taking part in, and I started looking at, when I came on as a deputy sheriff, we wore cowboy hats and we wore boots and we carried a 6-shooter. And then we started to see this up armament because we heard these rumors that the cartels were coming and they're bringing fully automatic weapons. And so we need to weaponize our police force. Russ, if we would have had legal drugs way back in the day for personal use, just the individual adult who wants to take part in any substance that's now legal under this panacea that I'm talking about, we wouldn't be in the position that we're at right now. We wouldn't have seen the cartels making the obscene profits that they're making. We wouldn't have seen the different countries throughout the world that have been impacted by our war on drugs. And so we could have made a difference. We could have made a difference way back in the day by legalizing drugs. We have the opportunity now as a country to look at at least 25 other self-respecting countries, and our neighbor to the north they're taking huge leaps in the regard of, this isn't a criminal action. If somebody's using a controlled substance and they're over 21, they're over the age of majority, and they're doing it in their own home and they're not hurting anybody, no harm, no foul. If they come in contact with the police, it's because they're usually in a crisis situation. And so instead of criminalizing that behavior and just treating it as a social ill or as a public health issue, we're going to be a lot further ahead on the game.
We are here in Oregon. We're 9 days away from the first anniversary of our first legal marijuana sales. From your perspective, how has legalization unfolded in Oregon? Is it what you had hoped? Do you see problems that weren't expected?
Russ, the sky didn't fall.
Ha!
The sky didn't fall. It's amazing. So I am excited about where we are going here in the state of Oregon. We're taking baby steps in the right direction. There has not been any significant problems with the legalization of marijuana. My concern is that there are municipalities out there that are choosing to take steps that potentially can create a gray market. Now, if a municipality wants to enact their own taxes, then they can comply with the law and they can get their own tax base going for the sale and production and manufacture of marijuana. So that's great if they want to do that. But to just say we aren't going to allow the sale, we aren't going to allow the production, we aren't going to allow the distribution, they're creating a gray market. And what I mean by that, Russ, is that all of a sudden if you have a green thumb and you're growing the amount that you can lawfully grow in the state of Oregon, and your neighbor down the street has a black thumb and he can't grow, but he has to drive 3 counties over to pick up his legal marijuana, what's going to happen?
He's going to talk to his neighbor.
What's going to happen, Russ? He's going to talk to his neighbor. Exactly. He's going to talk to his neighbor, and then his neighbor, for some reason, his neighbor is going to make sure that his neighbor's hooked up, and there's going to be some sort of financial consideration involved, or some sort of consideration involved, and so then all of a sudden you've made 2 criminals. And it shouldn't be that way. I think that the areas that are choosing not to allow people easy access to a legal substance are making a mistake.
Oh, completely agreed. And we'll be covering a lot of those votes here in the state of Oregon, among many of the votes nationwide in our marijuana election night coverage coming up Tuesday, November 8th, here on CannabisRadio.com. And Paul Steigletter is a speaker with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He's one of many that you can find all across the nation and around the world, folks that will come to your local event, your Rotary Club, whatever it might be, and talk to you with the experience and gravitas that only people involved in law enforcement can understand when it comes to the war on drugs. Paul, thanks for joining us here on the show, and we appreciate the work you've been doing, and keep it up.
Well, thank you very much for that, Russ, and I'd be more than happy to come back and talk to you anytime, because we've got some neat things coming up here, or some really neat possibilities here in the state of Oregon as far as personal possession of controlled substances. So that's just a teaser. Give me a call back when you come on your show, and we'll talk about that.
Sounds great. Thank you, Paul, for everything you're doing, and we will talk to you again sometime in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
You too. Have a great day. Thanks for calling in. Always great to talk to our friends from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Stay tuned, folks. We're coming back with the Radical Rant. We're going to tell you how Kevin Sabet's marijuana gummy bear propaganda stunt backfired spectacularly. And we'll follow that up with a live interview coming from Boston on the hero who made it all happen, Dr. Keith Saunders from MassCan Normal. Oh, I can't wait for this one. Stay tuned.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
From dabs to chivas, sativas to indicas, we roll out a whole concentrate of fresh new content every week. It's like going from the greenhouse to the dispensary. CannabisRadio.com.
While the feds and state are doing their dance, you still need to transact business and manage your cash. Go professional and let your customers pay with PayQuick. They pay you and they earn rewards points. PayQuick connects to your bank account for free and secures all of your transactions. And with PayQuick, you can pay your producers and processors for free. Plus, it pays to have it because it makes depositing your cash safe and so easy. No cops, no crooks, just compliance and comfort, knowing you have your cannabis business in check with PayQuick. PayQuick, the safe and easy way to pay. PayQuick.com.
I'm Radical Russ from the Russ Belville Show.
Senator Mark Madsen of Utah. Mark, welcome to the show.
Everybody kind of turns a blind eye. They obviously have to go to some other state.
Representative Lou Fredericks.
We're going to get something on the order of nonviolent possession offenses.
State Representative Kathy Tilton.
Where does it go from personal use to commercial use?
It's the Russ Belville Show, the NPR of POT, weekdays live at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, exclusively on CannabisRadio.com.
This is the Russ Belville Show, annoying Kevin Sabet since 2012.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
Oh, yeah. Today in the Radical Rant, I've got to tell you a tale that unfolded last night in Boston, Massachusetts. Of course, the state of Massachusetts is one of the 5 states voting on legal marijuana. Their vote is question 4 on the ballot. And there was a forum last night that was presented by the public education station there, public television station there, WGBH. It was called The Citizen's Choice: Legalizing Recreational Marijuana. And it was all about Massachusetts question 4. And there was 5 panelists there, included Madeline Martinez, our friend, and the founder of Oregon Normal board member, and head of the world-famous Cannabis Cafe. There was an expert there from Denver, I think, from their health department to offer statistics and so forth. But, of course, the man of the hour was Kevin Sabet, who was there. He was one of the panelists that was predicting dire consequences if Massachusetts passes legalization. The so-called quarterback of the anti-legalization movement and the head of Project SAM, the anti-legalization group, was doing his typical show, trying to scare the hell out of everyone regarding legalization. And then a funny thing happened. And you can go to weednews.co if you want to see the entire video. It's an hour and a half panel that they had. And you can find Kevin Sabet's actions happening at 33 minutes and 21 seconds. At that point in the video, Kevin Sabet confesses to possessing criminal amounts of a marijuana-infused product in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, assuming he is not a registered medical marijuana patient. What happened is that Kevin was trying to make the point that legalization would lead to medicated candy being eaten by kids who would then go to the emergency rooms. And to make his point, he pulled out 2 bags, 2 clear standard sandwich bags, not even the Ziploc kind, right? Just 2 clear baggies. One filled with round candies. They look like those chewy kind of sour candies, multicolored round candies. And the other one was filled with gummy bears. And in this display, he held the 2 bags up to the audience, and this is being televised. And that's when he said the following.
And I brought some props, if that's okay. I think parents should ask themselves whether they can tell which bag of candy here is marijuana and which one isn't.
You're not going to do the Skittles thing.
Well, you can try them if you want, Jim, but maybe afterwards. If you can't tell, which you probably can't, I bet you your kid can't tell either. When these things are lying around, the reason the emergency room admissions in Colorado for kids under 5, and I don't think Andrew would dispute this, has gone up significantly, doubled, is because these kinds of things are lying around. They're marketed. Of course they're marketed to young people, and young people are ingesting them. They are essentially, again, one of them is real, one of them isn't. They are the real candy here, simply sprayed with THC. And there's no way to tell the difference. And that's what Massachusetts voters are voting on. I don't care if an adult wants to smoke marijuana. They shouldn't go to prison for it either. But do you really want to legalize these? I'm not even sure NORML wants to do that. I mean, this is for people who want to make a ton of money in Massachusetts. They don't make it by selling joints to baby boomers or 65 and older. I hate to break it to you. They make it by making these candies and making them available to young.
All right, so that's Kevin Sabet yesterday at the WGBH Marijuana Legalization Forum, holding up 2 baggies of candy and saying, quote, parents should ask themselves whether they can tell which bag of candy here is marijuana and which one isn't. And he followed that up. He said it again. He says, they are essentially, again, one of them is real and one of them isn't. Twice on television, Kevin Sabet admitted to holding at least 1 bag of what he claimed to be a marijuana-infused candy product in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Furthermore, insinuated that it was a bag of candies that one would acquire legally in Colorado, because he kept making all the points about the emergency admissions in Colorado and the kids in Colorado. Here's the problem for Kevin is that while Massachusetts decrimmed less than an ounce of weed in 2012, the bag of gummies Sabet was holding certainly contained more than an ounce. And the allegedly THC-laced gummy bears aren't classified as Class D drugs by Massachusetts like pot is. No, they're classified as tetrahydrocannabinols. This is where they prosecute hash, extracts, concentrates, and presumably edibles made with hash, extracts, or oils. Those tetrahydrocannabinols are Class C drugs in the Commonwealth. So the penalties are greater. Possession of that much THC-laced candy in Massachusetts is a crime, punishable by a $1,000 fine and 1 year in prison. That is, if he was telling the truth. It's possible that Kevin Sabet was lying. Maybe both of the bags of candy were untainted. Well, if so, at the very least, he asked the audience a trick question, and that's intellectually dishonest. How can we possibly tell which bag is the infused one when neither of them are infused? But on the worst case scenario, he also may have committed a crime because possessing a non-drug item and falsely claiming that it is a drug is a crime called counterfeit substance. This is the statute that gets used when someone tries to sell flour and claim that it's ecstasy, or, the old one where they try to sell oregano and claim that it's a bag of marijuana. Counterfeit substances, like plain old gummy bears claimed to be infused with drugs. Well, regardless of whether he was lying or whether he's committing crimes, Sabet's warnings about the stoners carelessly leaving a bunch of THC-laced gummy bears just lying around came back to bite him in the ass, because he left his bag of gummies on the table during the meet and greet after the event concluded, and when he returned, they disappeared. This is the report from the Boston Pot Report last night. Quote, "Just got back from the WGBH panel on legalizing marijuana en masse. Kevin Sabet, the former mini-me to a handful of drug czars, brought a couple of big, more than 1 ounce bags of candy and challenged the audience to tell which one was infused with cannabis. After his puppy and pony show trick, I saw him looking around nervously saying, 'Someone stole the edibles.'" End quote. Now, if Sabet knowingly left gummies lying around, medicated gummies lying around where the public can swipe them, that possession of a bag of Class C drugs could become distribution of Class C drugs, and that's a felony in Massachusetts worth a $5,000 fine and 5 years in prison. And not to mention all the federal drug charges he could be facing, especially if he brought the gummies in from out of state. He was talking about the gummies in Colorado, after all. And God forbid if it was a youngster who got his hands on the medicated gummy bears and then ends up in the emergency room. Because then Sabet might also be facing a child endangerment charge. Now, fortunately, no children were harmed, thanks to the quick thinking of MassCan normals and national normals, Dr. Keith Saunders, who was attending the event at WGBH, who noticed at the end of the event, as Sabet and the rest of the panels were mingling around in the audience, that the 2 bags of candy were still sitting unattended at the table, and then he swiped the unattended bags of candy. He tweeted it out earlier today, a couple hours ago, picture of himself holding the 2 bags, asking, "Hey, Kevin Sabet, are these your missing bags of medicated candy?" And we shall soon see if Kevin Sabet was smuggling Class C tetrahydrocannabinols through Massachusetts, or just lying to the voters to scare them about question 4, because Saunders is taking the items to a testing lab this weekend to determine their THC content. Oh, I just love this story. The guy who complains about stoners leaving a bunch of medicated candies all around the place that kids might get into left a bunch of medicated candies lying around the place that kids might get into. These days, we responsible adult marijuana consumers are losing the gummy bear from our cannabis menu. A lot of these legal states, Colorado and Washington so far, setting strict regulations on the shape, color, and packaging of THC-infused treats that make marijuana gummy bears illegal. And on top of that, we're told in all these mandated warnings to keep these items in opaque, child-proof containers out of kids' reach, not some clear plastic baggie without labeling on it. It's a damn shame that Kevin Sabet is less diligent in his gummy bear protocol than the vast majority of cannabis consumers in the 4 legal marijuana states. Stay tuned. Keith Saunders, the gummy bear swiper, is on with us live in the next hour. For everyone here at CannabisRadio.com, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.